Hi there, it's Debbie with the Pickin Coop. I'm out in my garden and I just came out. I'm going to start tying up tomatoes and trimming things up. I want to trim up some of my squash to make them grow up into the trees, give everything a little more air and light in that one really dense bed that I have. But I wanted to talk to you about something. I've got inspiration since I've gotten back from the Homesteaders Conference. And it's just use what you have, start where you are. I don't know if anyone coined those phrases, but that's exactly what I did. And simply, I would start with a small list of maybe 5 things that are easily obtainable. Like, let's say you wanted to start use all natural toothpaste. You don't want to be dependent upon the store or even the health store for that matter. You know, use the first week or so and start researching that. What do I need? Can I buy these things? Is it economical? And then switch your family over to that. It's wonderful. Make a recipe. You might have to use a few recipes to find one you like or combine all of them together. And then just store that and use that. And then do that, perfect that over a month's time. Then the next month, move down your list. I would put number 1, most important, and then descend that way. And then the next month, let's say, I would really like to stop making or buying pasta. This is what I did because it gets super overwhelming. You don't want to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on a pasta machine, let's say. And then, you can use a pizza cutter, roll out the dough. These are simple: flour, salt, egg, a little bit of water, splash of olive oil. After you perfect it, you can start flavoring them. Instead of your liquid, you could use spinach juice, you could use carrot juice, you could do all kinds of things. It doesn't matter what shape the pastas are. If you're just going to make noodles, make noodles. It's okay. If you have a dehydrator, you could dry them. You could hang them up to dry. Put them over a little hanger. Hang them up in your kitchen. Let them dry, and then store them in a recycled big jar. I mean, it's not as hard as you think. And tell yourself, once I master this skill, I am not going to buy that from the supermarket any longer. I know what I'm feeding my family. It's made from scratch, and it's going to be good for all of us. Plus, if you have kids, you're teaching your kids, you're teaching your grandkids. And so, not to depend on the poison, basically. I'll probably get banned from this, that the grocery stores are feeding us. It's awful. Okay, so you master your pasta. Next on your list, you're like, maybe I'd like to make my own deodorant. Master that. Each month, add a new skill, but start out with easy, economical skills. Then also, one other thing, and I'll get off my little soapbox here. If you really want something to help with the new skills that you are acquiring, you want a pasta machine, whether it be hand crank or electric. Make a list. I have a thrift store yard sale list, and that stays in my purse. And then as I think of things, I add it to it. And before I go to these places, I kind of glance at my list and I'm like, it'd be really nice to have a little tortilla press kind of a thing. And then if you see one, you see one. If you don't, you don't. Pray on it. It happens. It's like I had a pasta machine years ago. This is a good example. And it was wonderful, and it broke. And I've been sad ever since. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago. And then we went to this neighborhood yard sale up here in Whitmore. And about the 3rd or 4th yard sale I went to, lo and behold, it wasn't the same brand. But here's a pasta machine with the instructions, with all the dies, which are the little things that you can change out to make the different shapes. It had everything. $5. And then my sister was at a thrift store, And she sent me a picture. She goes, hey, I just found this hand crank like Italian pasta maker. Do you want that? And I went, so we were virtual yard sailing basically. And I said, oh my gosh, please grab that for me. So now I have one that I can use with power. And then I have one if there is no power. So it's just simple stuff like that. And it starts falling into place. It really, truly does. You want to learn how to sew. You know, shop around thrift stores, yard sales, all kinds of stuff. Watch YouTube videos. They have great tutorials on sewing, crocheting, knitting. Although I've tried knitting, I can't do it. But anything that you want to do to change your life for the better. So it's really that simple. It's that economical. So, and then think about things that you already have that you could utilize for that. And I said one more thing. I was just kidding. When I first started making sourdough bread, for instance, I didn't have a fancy razor blade thing. I don't know what they're called. I didn't have the fancy baskets that are lined with muslin. I didn't have the little rubber thing you set your bread on. I had the parchment paper. I didn't and still don't have a cast iron Dutch oven. I do have 2 cast iron frying pans that I invert, put them together. I have parchment paper that you can reuse until it falls apart. I did not know that at first. I wasted a lot of parchment paper. And I had a brand new X-Acto knife in my art supplies. And I went, well shoot, I could do this. And it's just salt, water, flour, and some kind of vessel to put your starter in. That's pretty much all you need. And if you have those things, you are set to go. And it's sourdough is tricky. I watched a lot of tutorials. My first 3 or 4 starters died, and I finally found one that it's still thriving. It's amazing. And then tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to buy bread once you master it, because you'll still have to buy bread until you do. I am not going to buy bread from the store anymore. Boom. Now you've got your own bread, your pasta, whatever you decide to do. And then constantly, if you go to town for groceries, say, I'm going to stop in at this thrift store just to look real quick, see what they have, anything on my list. And then boom, before you know it, you've got your supplies. I did the same thing. I already had a dehydrator, an electric dehydrator. And I thought, boy, at the rate that I'm making all these medicines, tinctures, what have you, plus I'm doing my produce in my garden, I could really use 2. I went to the thrift store, probably a month later. Boom, here's this big, nice thing. And it was only like $10 or $15. I mean, like, you know, it happens. So be patient. Make yourself a list, get organized, and pick easily and economically attainable goals. And as you go, you'll get more confident and say, well, you know, I've made the toothpaste, I've made the deodorant, I've made the bread, I can crochet dishcloths now, I can sew. Then make another 5 and just keep going and going and going. And I still go grocery shopping. There's things I have to buy. I mean, I buy toilet paper, and during the winter, I try to buy fresh produce, although most of it at the store, organic or not, is kind of nasty. But there's things that you're just going to have to buy. And don't get discouraged by that. But each month, chip away at these things, and you'll find yourself pretty darn self-sustainable. Okay, now I'm done. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we're doing out into the garden. Cheers. Crazy cat lady, crazy garden lady. That's me. Okay, so as you can see, I have a bunch of weeds that are cropped up here. I'm going to have to harvest some more pine straw and put in here. And it helps with the weeds. It helps keep your plants nice and moist. And I live in an area in Northern California, even though we're up almost to 3,000 feet, we are having a heck of a heat wave this year, or this week, and next week's supposed to be even hotter. It's crazy. we stay probably about 12 degrees cooler up here, which I'm very thankful for. But at the same time, it's like you've got to keep your plants moist. And right now, you probably can hear the wind blowing. It's called what they call a red flag warning. And you can't mow, you can't weed eat. It's when it's hot like that and the wind blows at the same time. So it's extreme fire danger. So it's kind of scary. And we still have knuckleheads that think, well, I can just weed eat. I can just mow this area. And it's like, no. Everything, even if you have a spark arrestor, everything has the potential to catch on fire. So, yeah. I had high hopes. I had a new wheel, or excuse me, a new tire. The hubby put a new tire on the lawnmower for me. We have a riding lawnmower. And I was like, oh, I'm going to mow when I get home. I'm excited. It's silly to get excited over something like that, but we have a big, beautiful yard. And it is like a park, so you've got to keep it mowed. It's about an acre, I would guess. And I can't mow it, so I just keep watering it, and of course it just keeps on growing. But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it's just part of living in Northern California. So we have cold winters where we get quite a bit of snow, hot summers, but up here at least it cools off at night, so that's a good thing. I am thankful for that. So I'm just going to go around and weed here and there. I'm going to be tying up some of my tomatoes back here right behind me. They're getting ginormous. So we'll just come along, and maybe I'll just speed it up so you don't have to listen to me drone on and on about things. This hay twine is a perfect example of use what you have, start where you are. I ran out of my very favorite stuff to use, my orange tree tape, because it's so gentle and stretchy on my plants. So you run out, what do you have? You've got an abundance of hay twine. It's not very giving, it's taut, but you just tie it looser. So that's just one example of something you can do. So that's all I have for you today. So the big lesson out of this is use what you have and start where you are. Outside of my big 12-foot beds that I have made, almost all of the materials besides the screws and the wire, of course I had to buy the wire, are recycled materials. I have all this wood some wonderful people brought me, and I'd been making signs and different things for my business out of that. And so I thought, you know, I think there are long enough ones where I can make like 8-footers, and it worked out perfect. So I cut them, and then we screwed them together, lined the bottom with wire, and I mean, lumber is astronomically expensive. And then, excuse my camera, Stitch, my cat, is going under there to scratch his back apparently. So anywho, and then by the grace of God, my brother-in-law, who I grow hot peppers and eggplants for, he has one of those portable lumber mills. So he saw what I was doing, so he came up and he brought me all kinds of lumber, and he wouldn't let me pay for it. He goes, if you don't quit asking me or trying to give me money for this lumber, I'm going to stop bringing it to you. So I thought, well, he loves my sourdough, so I just traded my sourdough, and he was happy as a clam. So I've got we don't really eat a whole lot of eggplant, and I'm telling you, I probably got at least a dozen eggplants in there, and all kinds of hot peppers. He loves that. So I mean, God is good. It's amazing. Make me a little weepy, sorry. And then I wanted grow bags to grow my potatoes, and I was gonna try corn. Well, he runs his cattle out here to graze, and we usually pick out one that we purchase from him, a steer to butcher, and there's all these mineral buckets. I mean, it falls into place. Okay, I'm better now. So I hope the sun is shining where you are. I thought I was done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fabulous day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.